Vanessa, thanks so much for being willing to be interviewed for Voices of Community, Erath County Oral History Project. I'm glad to meet you.
Yeah,
And
nice to meet you too.
Right, I was glad to
Yeah.
meet some of your students and other faculty this past week.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to start by asking you to tell us your name and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Vanessa Halford, and I am a certified teacher and a certified counselor for public schools. I've been in the area for 41 years. I'm a big graduate of Tarleton State University and also have my educational degree from Tarleton, plus also my master's degree from Tarleton in guidance and counseling. I worked in the public school system for over 30 years between Granbury and SISD, and in 2015, I retired thinking that I was going to go home and chill out a little bit. But what I did at that point in time is I just started monitoring some homeschool kids that were in the area, and it has turned into a full-fledged private school that is accredited and everything else. We started in the fall of 2016 and started with 14 kids, and I had another retired teacher come on board with me. And we started then, and over the past 10 years, we have grown to a campus of 168 K through 12, with also 160 online, and just built a brand new building out on the side of town and just loving life out there at this point in time. I'm married, have 2 kids. Both my children are older. I have a son that flies for American Airlines, and then I have a daughter who is in Colorado, and she is a dispatcher for the local fire department there, and she just had my first grandbaby. So I'm a nearly grandma now this year. And I'm married. My husband and I both graduated Tarleton, married here, and stayed here in Stephenville since that time. And we have cattle and horses, and we both were on the rodeo team at the time that we were here. And we just love Stephenville and love Tarleton.
And did you grow up here? Where were
No,
you born?
I was born in Abilene.
Okay.
And so my dad was Air Force. And so we traveled all over the United States in different places, and he retired and finally ended up in Abilene. And so we stayed in Abilene and up until the time that I came to Tarleton. But my dad was born in Lingleville, and all of his family were in Lingleville. And so he was a big part of, you've got to go see Tarleton, you've got to go see Tarleton, because his uncle was one of the first presidents of Tarleton State Agricultural College back in the day. James F. Cox was my great uncle, who was one of the people who started Tarleton back in like 1919 to 1920. And so my dad was very adamant about me coming to Tarleton at the time, and I'm just so glad he did. He drove me up here, and I just fell in love with Tarleton at the time.
What age were you when y'all moved over here?
Up here, I was right at 18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right into Tarleton.
Right into Tarleton. Mm-hmm.
And can you talk about some of the early memories that you have of being a young adult or an adult in Tarleton?
An adult at Tarleton. I just remember the fellowship, and the people were oh so helpful when I got here, which I don't meet a stranger. I never do meet a stranger, and so I'm pretty easy to warm up to people, but so inviting and so helpful when we came in. And some of the professors that we had here, once we got through the basics and went on with the basics, it was just so helpful on getting us out there and getting us experience with kids and getting us out and to do educational experiences all over in the schools through here. I felt like I got a really good basic degree as far as be it the Bachelor's of Education degree. And I started teaching just as soon as I graduated from here, and I started teaching kindergarten my first year, and then kind of moved up throughout the levels. And during that time, I realized that I may have had a better gift than education, which that was with the counseling and with working with kids one-on-one, because I just noticed that was what my personality kind of led toward. And so went in and got my master's in education and guidance and counseling, and then moved out of the classroom and went into administration for I've been in education 41 years this year. And so the last 30 have been in an administrative position.
You mentioned that your dad was in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
What did your mom do?
My mom was in banking, and so she was a banker. She was one of the first women bankers that became a vice president of a bank in Abilene, and she was the president of the National Association of Banking Women in Abilene. So we had roots in Abilene, but I looking at different colleges where to come to. My dad was just always, we've got to go to Tarleton. That's where you belong, is in Tarleton. So he drove me out here.
And your grandparents, were they
Grandparents, I really didn't have much. My dad was 48 when I was born, and I was the last of 6 kiddos. And so I didn't really get to I didn't get to see my grandparents ever alive because they were already gone by the time that I was born. I hear stories of them all the time, but yeah, I didn't get the opportunity to get to be with them.
When you moved from Abilene and then to Stephenville, or in Erath County, you mentioned you've never known a stranger.
Yeah.
You've mentioned everybody was welcoming. Can you talk about what the community here was like when you moved here?
Different from Abilene because Abilene was so much bigger. And at the time in 1983, 82, 83, when I got here, it was a small town at that point in time. And so I noticed we had more grocery stores at that point in time than we do now. There was a grocery store around every corner when I very first got here. There was a Kmart here where the HEB was. There was a Kmart here. So there was more different types of stores within the town. Eating establishments. There was a lot of different eating establishments here at the time than there was now. But always the man who sold me my house, told me who to go to banking. You need to bank at this bank. You need to meet with this person. You need to do this. You need to use this plumber. You need to use all these different things. And so just as soon as we came into town, everybody was so helpful. And everybody knew everybody that was in town, which was different from Abilene because Abilene was bigger. And so, and just essentially, they just enveloped you and took care of you as soon as we got here, which was neat. It was a neat thing.
And where did people gather then? Like, where were the gatherings?
The Jake and Dorothy's.
Okay.
Everybody,
Tell us about that.
Yeah, everybody went to the Jake and Dorothy. Everybody still goes to the Jake and Dorothy's mostly, but you could go through and everybody would gather at the Jake and Dorothy's. And back then everybody loved to dance, especially the college kids, and everybody loved to dance. And we had the South Fork on Thursday night, and then we had the Dodge House on Wednesday night. And it was just a place where the kids would go and we would dance the whole time, two-stepping the whole way. And that was a weekly thing that ever happened. On the weekends, a lot of people went home. There wasn't a lot of things that happened on the weekends, but during the week, we had our little spots that we hung out and went and had fun.
Were there traditions, whether in the town or traditions at Tarleton State or both, that you recall participating in when you were a student?
Since we were with the rodeo stuff, we always kind of stayed out with the rodeo team and did things with them, and we had things that we did, meetings and just different things, hung out with them. But 4th of July parade was wonderful just because it's small town. Coming from Abilene, we didn't have that. Each little neighborhood had their own little, parade in Abilene, but here the whole community came in for the 4th of July. The whole community would come in for Tarleton Homecoming. All the different things like that it just provided a more homey feeling here than it did from the Abilene area. Even though I love Abilene, but it's just different than what was here. That's why we stayed.
Well, because you stayed, you've seen a lot of change since 1985.
Yes.
Talk about that change. How has the community changed over the years?
Becoming more diverse across the board. You have so many people. If people moved into Stephenville back in 1985, you had the people who were coming in that were new professors at Tarleton, or new people who had decided, the rodeo is a big community within Stephenville, but it would just be more people who came in that liked the rodeo stuff, but they just stayed here. My husband and I both, had the horses and stuff, and this was a neat place just to stay, and we became part of the community then. Different things, bigger chains as far as Walmart came in. Back when in 85, we had 3 different grocery stores here that were small chain or just individually owned grocery stores. When Walmart came in, those closed. And so you saw some different things happening like that. With the growth came a little bit of the in-town community-owned businesses went away. Excuse me. A lot of things like that happened. We just see more diverse people coming in, just people from different communities. And now, we have, within the last 10 years, we have so many people influx from the West coming back in to live in Stephenville and living just in this area. And I put it toward good communities, good schools, good people to be around in this area.
And what stayed the same?
I think the values, the core values of people mostly across the board, people here attend church. They have a religion that they adhere to no matter what it is, and they take care of each other. There's still a community hospital that people rally around. You still have, when somebody's in need, everybody comes together to help those people that need whatever they need. Anything that tragic happens within the community, everybody, doesn't matter if they knew the person or not, they pull together to try to help families and to try to help people.
What's not changed, or what hasn't changed in terms of the university and the community?
What hasn't changed? The feel hasn't changed. I don't know if that's, I'm the feeling person because I'm your counseling type person, but it's the feel. It's still being a part of and welcoming, and the quality of education. The education department at Tarleton has always been stellar to me. I would put it up against anybody. And that hasn't changed at all, even though it's gotten bigger. A lot of people don't like change, but this hasn't changed at all, which is great.
For your family, I'm interested in traditions. What traditions do you have now, or that carried over from your family, traditions from your family that are important?
That are important to me? Always the holidays. Those are traditions that we always love, the holidays and having Thanksgiving and different things like that. And we have certain meals that we have, everybody always loves certain meals that we have during different holiday times. We always do 4th of July parade together. I mean, that's just our thing. We always get together and you have got to go to the parade. We always do Easter Sunday together. We always go to church together on Easter Sunday. Probably just the normal traditions that everybody else has across the board. I don't think we have anything just really special that anybody else doesn't do. I think we just do pretty much what normally everybody else does.
What's on your Thanksgiving table?
What's on my Thanksgiving table? Oh, now you're getting... Okay, we always have turkey, we always have ham. Of course, the green bean casserole salad, sweet potatoes, but we also have to have mashed potatoes because not everybody likes sweet potatoes, so we have to have that. We have to have corn because not everybody likes green bean casserole. And then my husband loves one of those awful gelatin salads, those Jell-O things that has lots of fruit in it. So I always make one of those, and I always make this red Jell-O, and I dump that can of all mixed fruit together and put it in there. And I don't know why he likes that, but I make it every single time. And then I have a killer pound cake that I make from scratch. It has like 2 pounds of butter and 4 cups of sugar, and it's just like lovely. So that's on my Thanksgiving table, and we always have it. And we always have grape salad. I don't know if you know what the grape salad. We always have grape salad, which is the purple grapes with cream cheese and the evaporated milk and all the good stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. You ought to come home.
Come
visit sometime.
What changed? When did you meet your husband?
I met my husband my senior year in high school.
And what, the fancy word is diffuse, but what ended up on the Thanksgiving table that was tradition in your family that changed when he became part of your family?
I think it's just the addition. We all had the addition to things. David's parents always had, it's whether you put sage or not in the dressing. That's what changed, is because some people like sage and some people don't. And so I now make 2 dressings, one with sage and one not. It's on how you prepare certain things.
And then there's the Jell-O.
And then there's the Jell-O thing. And I just make it and put it out there and go, yeah. Y'all get after that.
That's interesting. So in terms of the community, you mentioned the person that you bought your house from was a connecting point in the community.
Yes.
And I wonder, who were the people in the community that had a strong influence over you?
Mostly the people up at Tarleton. because that was my life when I got here, is that Cleve Cole was across the street from me, and a lot of people will know. Tarleton students won't, but he was with the sheriff's department, and he was across the street from me. It was the first time I had lived in a house by myself. And he worked for the sheriff's department forever, and Cleve always made sure that I was okay. Like every time I came in one night, really, really late one night, and I walked in my house and my back door was open, and it scared me. And I ran across the street and I knocked on Cleve's door, and Cleve came over and went through my whole house to make sure that I was okay. And he didn't have to do that, but he just worked for the sheriff's department, and for years. And now I still remain friends with his wife and his son, and I've been with his grandkids as they came through the public school system here in Stephenville. So I've kept those memories. Bob Becker sold me my house. He's also been in Stephenville forever. We've remained friends through the whole time that he's been here. You know, I've just kept some of the connections that I made while I was here. As I've gotten older and remained in the community, we go back and reminisce. I still have people that I graduated with here in Tarleton that we still keep in touch and do business stuff together.
Wow.
And it's just a community who takes care of each other. They do.
So what lessons did you learn growing up here?
Of all the lessons I've learned is how community should be, as far as it is a responsibility that you take care of the people around you, that the world does not revolve around you, that not only you're responsible for yourself, but you need to be responsible. And, you know, like we always say in education, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it kind of takes a village to go through life. And so to use your people and to have good connections with people and to be respectful, but also be there for people when they need them, when they need each other, which that was very different from Abilene, just because you had a lot of people coming in and out of Abilene at different times. The core of the people in Abilene changed frequently, where the core of Stephenville didn't. You know, it was still the same people. There's still the same people here that we met in 1982 to 83 when I came here, that I still keep in touch with. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Can you tell us about any stories that have been passed down through your family across generations?
Across generations? Let me think on that one. My dad, you know, was in the Air Force at different times and things about that. He would tell me stories. He lived in Lingleville. He was born in Lingleville. His family all was raised there, and he talked to me at length about how when they finally decided to leave Lingleville, he went by covered wagon and went to Abilene. And he had 4 brothers and sisters, and it took them about 5 days to get to Abilene, and they went with their covered wagon and all their belongings. He did, one trip up here, he did show me the old home place in Abilene, and also took me to the cemetery, in Lingleville. Showed me the old home place in Lingleville, but he took me to the cemetery in Lingleville and showed me all my family that was out there. But he would talk at length about how his uncle, James F. Cox, came and began here at Tarleton, and then he went on to ACU. But did you know that there was a Christian college in Lingleville also back in the and I want to say it was like 1912, maybe even earlier than that. Lingleville had their own Christian college at that time. And James F. Cox went and worked with the Lingleville Christian College, and then that college Lingleville Christian College moved to Abilene, which is now ACU, and Abilene Christian College.
Wow.
Over there. So it's pretty interesting when you go back and look it up. It's pretty neat on how all that transpired back in the day.
And James F. Cox was your uncle?
Great uncle.
Great uncle.
Great uncle.
Great uncle on your maternal or paternal
Dad's,
side?
my father's side, paternal side. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about a meal or food that reminds you of home?
I'm going to talk about my dad a lot just because he and I were very close. I was the last of 6, and he was 48 when I was born, so we did everything together. But on Sundays, we would go to church on Sundays and come home, and we always had fried chicken, and mother always made cornbread and stuff for our lunch. But then on Sunday nights, we got to eat cornbread and sweet milk. and you would get a big old glass of just sweet milk, is regular milk, just regular milk, and you would crumble up your cornbread in the sweet milk, and that was a treat. That on Sunday nights it was our leftovers. If you can eat some more chicken, but most of us just wanted cornbread and sweet milk every Sunday night.
So that's the one that brings the most memories.
That's the one that brings the most memories.
Yeah, awesome.
Because we would sit down and watch shows that no kids know what they were back then,
Right.
So, but it was fun. I just remember, because I talked to my kids at my school a lot about history and different things like that, and they always go, "What is sweet milk?" I just finally you had buttermilk and you had sweet milk. And sometimes Dad had his in buttermilk, and I thought that was just the grossest thing ever. Ooh. But yeah, I wanted sweet milk.
Interesting.
Mine. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, who in your family usually did the cooking?
My dad.
Tell us about that.
Oddly enough. So I am the last of 6 children. Like I said, my dad was in the Air Force and my mom was in banking. But when I came along, it was just when I was 5, my dad retired from the Air Force. And so he and I got to do just a whole lot. We spent a lot of time together through those years, formative years when I was younger. And so Mom was always at work. So Dad always was the one who took us to school and brought us back from school. But he also loved to cook. And so he was the cook in the family. It was great.
And what was the favorite recipe?
My favorite recipe of my dad is he made his own homemade biscuits and gravy, and didn't use any kinds of packages, didn't use anything. Everything he did was from scratch. But anyhow, he started cooking everything in the mornings. We had hot biscuits every morning and bacon and eggs and gravy, and that started out breakfast every morning before we trotted off to school. And then when we came home in the evenings, we had chicken fried steak. Everything was fried because that's what he did. He wasn't much into, worrying about cholesterol or anything. It was good Southern cooking. Yeah, he was the cook in the family.
Did those recipes get passed down to you?
Yes, and a lot of them are just still in my head.
Okay.
And part of it is because I would go in there, and when I was little, he'd set me on the counter while he would cook. And just like making gravy, he explained to me, you got to leave the grease in there and let it get hot before you put your flour in there, and then you let that brown up, and then we don't measure anything. It's just a little bit more and put a little bit more. And so there's very few recipes that I use very few dishes that I use a recipe for, just unless it's not something that I do a lot. But most of the time, I'll wing it. But it was because Dad allowed me to do that when I was younger. He taught me how to do that when I was younger.
Now, do you have a specific memory of a single time when you sat on the counter and learned to do it, or your memories comprised of several times?
It's just several times. I mean, I just remember several times of whatever. But I just remember Dad would go in, and when I was little, I didn't like to eat the whole biscuit. I just liked to eat the bottom, and I wanted it crunchy on the bottom. So I always tell him, Daddy, burn the biscuits. So he would make 2 or 3 biscuits for me that he would leave in there and put a lot of oil on the bottom of the pan. So the bottom of the biscuit would be crunchy for me. I was a little spoiled.
I'm guessing that you don't prepare the same meal every morning, or didn't prepare the same meal for your own family?
And probably even raised mine a little differently than he did, because now, you already had bacon that was already cooked, so I threw it in the microwave and did that. Now I did fix some scrambled eggs and toast and everything, but no, his was a production every morning, and everybody went to the table. Everybody met. I had my 2 sisters were there. My 3 brothers were already out of the house, but my 2 sisters were there, and every morning we got up and we had breakfast together. And then we cleaned the kitchen before we even got ready for school, because everything had to be clean. You didn't leave anything out. And got ready for school, and then he took us all to school.
Do you ever prepare it from scratch, just like he did
on
for
Sundays,
the family?
Sometimes,
On Sundays.
On Sundays or Saturdays, when my kids were still home. Now my husband has to wing it. He's on his own. He knows where the cereal box is with everything else. But when my kids were still at home, I did a lot, but now not so much.
What memories come to mind when you think about biscuits and gravy from scratch?
Just the time that you got to spend with somebody, just sitting down and talking and learning, and those memories would lead off to some discussions that have nothing to do with food, but you're sitting there preparing and doing, and he would tell me about, his days of growing up or what he did in the Air Force or flying airplanes and different things like that. And we'd talk about school, it was just a really easy place to talk about anything that you needed to talk about. And you're just sitting in there cooking. So I think maybe that's why I'm a foodie. It's because it always brought joy. Mm-hmm. It always brought joy. I'm not a person who says, I just hate to cook. I don't. I'm not real fond of cleaning up. But food is love to me. I mean, it's always been, that's a gathering time. It's a love time, and so, yeah, I love it. It's my problem.
Tell us about what makes Erath County special to you.
It's always been the place of good memories, and it's where I've raised my kids. It's where I have chosen to raise my kids. My husband comes from the Panhandle of Texas, in a town very about the same size as what Stephenville is, and probably has similar values to what Stephenville does. But when we came to school here, I just fell in love with the people here across the board. And once you know them, and once you've been around for a while, you're their family. And so that's where I chose to raise my kids. And my kids grew up in this area with many of the same people that I ended up graduating from college with, which was kind of cool. And maybe not so cool, because then they can tell college stories on you that you really don't want your kids to know. But this community, you have people who model respect, and you have people who model responsibility, and in a lot of places other than here, that's not always the case. And so this community just had the core values that I wanted for my family.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope younger generations understand about this community?
Even though we're progressing in a lot of different ways, the core values are still the older, what's expected from people. Respect is still a big thing that not all communities have. And it's the larger cities is what I'm talking about, that things like that aren't modeled for kids. And I think here it is. I think it's here. It's expected from students. It's expected from each other. Responsibility of just taking care of each other, taking care of yourself, taking care of your place, making sure that things are nice and neat in the community, being just respectful of your community and your town, and just the giving and the helpfulness of everybody in our community. And it's a partnership, because even though I retired from Stephenville ISD for how many years did I work for them? 20 some odd. When I started the private school in a different community, they may have seen that as not a good thing, or she's going against public school or whatever. Exact opposite here in Stephenville. When I retired, everybody said, "Oh, Vanessa, that's great. All kids there needs to be a place where all kids can go. Some kids may fit this mold, and this model may fit, public school may be the best model for them. Some kids don't fit that mold and need something a little bit different. And so it's really good that you started this, and people can move over to this school, and we also have this available and this available." And so, what we have to look at is our kids in the community. And nothing here is, we're not in competition between the schools here. We're not at all. I do things with the Stephenville Christian School, and we get the same kids. I mean, and it's just because our whole community is vested in raising good kids. And so that is what I have appreciated about this community, because I work well with the high school. High school will call and say, "We have a kid coming to you. They're really drowning here at the high school. Too many kids, needs more one-on-one attention. We've sent mom to y'all. Good kid, take them." And I also go back and forth and say, my kid really wants more sports and band and stuff that I can't offer. We're going to, I'm going to send them to you. And we just go back and forth like that, even working with Ranger, even working with Tarleton, and just all the different things around here. We work with Cisco for kids who need to go into the trades and different things like that. I've got some junior colleges for kids who would have a really tough time in a larger school. We would get it down to a smaller school. So nothing is ever a competition here. It's just we're going to do what's best for the kid and the family, which is I don't see that in all communities.
Right. Is there a story about your life or family that you'd like future generations to remember?
A story about my life or family. I don't know if there's a story. I hope generations will respect the past and think about the past and how we got to where we are. I think sometimes kids just think that this new and innovative different things that are happening are the good things. But a lot of times they come from, I don't even know how to explain this. History will tell you a lot. History will tell you a lot if you go back and you see how things are created and how things are done. And I don't think that we ought to just say, well, that's the way we did it old school. Because sometimes old school things are good and maybe even better than what we're trying to do it the new way. And so that's my encouragement to my kids at my own school. We talk a lot about the past and the different things that where did we come from? Where do we come from and where have we gone awry? Because a lot of times in the future now we use so much social media and we use so much AI that we're losing our ability to communicate effectively with people, and we're losing our ability to understand people, I think, and we misinterpret people over social media. And so some people will get in their mind that a person's a certain way just because of what they've seen in social media or what they've seen, and we don't take the time to really get to know the people and to have good conversations. And I don't feel like there's a lot of, and I'm going to tread on this lightly, but I don't think that there's a lot of people that kids can look up to today because they don't portray those characteristics that we really would like to see in our kids.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about your experiences here in Erath County or Stephenville?
It's just a great place to be. It's a great place to raise your kids. It's a great place for you to raise yourself. Because Stephenville raised me. I'm telling you, we had a good time in Stephenville and good people, and it's just a good spot.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for
You're so welcome. Thank you for having
this.
me.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. If you need anything else, let me know.
Great.